Well, we are out in Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument once again and doing another vintage lens review. Today's lens of choice, as I climb up these stairs made of rock, today's lens is the infamous Helios 44-2, the lens that was made in the old Soviet Union. I believe that it was based on design from Zeiss or Carl Zeiss. I'll have to put the correction on the screen if I'm incorrect, because I'm going by memory and my memory's faulty. Spooky cactus. I believe my last lens review was actually done in a different part of Organ Pipe, so this apparently is not my go-to. It's an absolutely gorgeous day out here. Low 60s. There's rainstorms a few days ago, so it's not dusty. Looking forward to about a 3.5 mile hike that I've never been on before. So this should be fun. As long as I don't face plant in one of these. Anyhow, as I do with all my lens reviews, I'm gonna just do some real world testing, take pictures of the various cool things around, and show off the capabilities of this rather bizarre relic that kind of become the standard for weird vintage manual lenses that you can find many YouTube reviews on. I'm pretty sure that anybody gets into manual focus and old vintage lenses, this is one of the first purchases they try to make because it's an odd one. I'll be showing some portraits that I took in the past with this lens that I think will show off some of the weirdness of it. The weird bokeh effects and swirly, strange patterns in the background. So, it's time to wander on and find some things to take pictures of. As you can see, it's very dramatic desert scenery out here. Organ Pipe is one of my absolute favorite places in all of Arizona and pretty much whole Southwest. So there's some of the real quirks of at least a copy that I have. The aperture ring is declicked. It goes supposedly from f16 to f2. However, in the ring, when the indicator is actually the opposite, so it claims to be at f2, it's actually at f16. And you kind of just have to guess what your aperture is. Usually I like shooting at f8, but I just take a wild guess with this particular lens. When I'm shooting portraits, I'll just go wide open and just kind of go from there. And also, I probably should mention that this is a 55mm lens. So it's a good all-around, all-purpose, in that 50mm ballpark of just the nifty 50 multi-purpose lens. So despite this looking like rusted wire, this is not rusted wire, this is some plant life. So I shall get a photo of this. And as usual, I'm out here midday. Not the best light, which I'm sure every landscape photographer who watches this video will think I'm an idiot, which is fine, because I probably am. But it's a 2.5 hour drive to get here from Tucson. And I also stopped for breakfast at the excellent Granny's Cafe in Y, Arizona. So I got here when I got here. These things are massive. Remember, these cactus are only found in this part of the world, so they're quite rare. And they hang out with Harlow just fine. Don't think they have turf wars. Now, in the past, I have used this lens quite a bit more for the portrait photography sessions that I've done. A little bit of landscape photography, but not as much. This lens is kind of best known for people using it for portraiture. But today we'll be doing mostly landscape. Little baby. Not a baby. Now, one of the quirks of this lens is that, let's see if this will, how it focuses. The aperture ring is on the very end. and the focus ring's right here. But I often find myself confusing the two and change my aperture by accident and while not actually focusing. I think muscle memory changes how I think the aperture ring should be elsewhere, so that's one thing I always got to keep in mind when I'm using this lens. It's a minor observation, not actually a complaint, because you know, if you're doing manual focus photography, you're not moving fast anyways, at least not in theory. Anyhow, if you like desert scenery, this is an awesome trail. I'm already loving it. We are getting to the elevation gain part of this hike, also known as the huffing and puffing portion. Looks like I'm gonna be going up this hill. Supposedly about 1,000-foot elevation gain in this hike. So we shall see if I live. Hopefully I do. If not, assume a javelina found the SD card and went ahead and edited this for me and hacked into my account and uploaded it, monetized it. Probably did an ad read for something javelina related. And they're making fame and fortune on my efforts. Typical javelina. Just enjoying a little break here. Enjoying this view. Got a photo of that far, not this rock formation, but the first one I showed you. That sideways rock in the distance. You'll see in the computer if it's actually reasonably decent for landscape shots of far away things. Some of these older lenses don't do so great in the quote-unquote infinity focus, so we shall see. And I'm going to continue making my way up this steep incline. Here's something you don't see often in Arizona, especially in the desert. There's moss growing in that rock. This is a north-facing slope that I don't think gets a lot of sunshine, unlike these mountains. So it gives opportunity for something a little bit different to grow here. I've done it. The Bull Pasture viewpoint. And that was a climb. Oh wow, such views. You're not gonna see this in Kansas or Indiana. Whew. Find a place to sit, rehydrate, have a snack, and take a few more pictures and start making my way back down a mountain soon. So my plan here is I'm going to take a few more shots with the Helios lens, and then before I start descending back down this mountain, I'm going to switch over to an RF lens for a little bit easier photography now that I'm starting to get a little physically worn out. Don't really want to fuss with manual focus. And any photos from that will be on my organ pipe gallery. I'll share a link to that in the description so you can check out all my visits over the years and all the different places around this park that I've been. But wow, this view up here is absolutely outstanding. Highly recommended hike if you're good with some strenuous elevation climbs. Definitely not a hike for the less able-bodied. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but it's definitely can be challenging to parts. And somewhere down there is actually my car. Can't quite see it from here, but it's down there. You might be able to see the road. So this probably does conclude the landscape testing of this lens. Hopefully the results turn out to be pretty good and you get a good idea what this lens can do. And then after that, I will go through some of my old archive photos from past portrait sessions, and we'll take a look at those to see how this lens performs in those conditions. And as always, if you find this information useful and these adventures fun, why not give it a like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff that makes the algorithm think I'm doing something useful. I'm not, but you're still watching, right? The Helios 44 is pretty well regarded for portrait photography, at least to my recollection from watching other YouTube videos reviewing the lens. I used this lens for some outdoor shots with model Ayeonna Gabrielle a few years ago. You can get an idea of the background blur and some of the slightly weird effects this lens gets. Some people like the imperfections while others don't. Your mileage may vary. In an indoor setting in natural lighting with model Anoush Anou, I found this lens could produce a very nice soft feel while capturing details, assuming I got the focus nailed properly. As with most manual lenses, this is a skill that's taken me a bit of time to improve upon. My most recent price check on eBay finds copies of this lens going anywhere from $80 to $150. There are other Helios 44 lenses besides the Dash 2 version, and I believe there are quality concerns with other iterations of the lens, so definitely check some resources before committing to a purchase. My experience with my lens has been very good. As shown in this review, the lens capabilities are quite solid, and my past experiences with portraits has been quite enjoyable as well. I like the weirdness of a Soviet-era lens and the results of their reverse engineering of a Zeiss lens. As such, I give this a solid A for a grade. And as I mentioned earlier, this seems to be a popular acquisition for those getting into vintage lenses, and I certainly will not try to convince you otherwise.